Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Jamaica News in Review. Internal conflict theorized in Parklane double murder. The murder tied in the St. Andrew North Police Division shifted to the Parklane community on Tuesday after men reported posing as cops killed two men, setting off fresh fears in the crime hotspot. The deceased have been identified as 40-year-old Patrick Indian Thompson and year 1 Gunnar Green, both of the low-income Kingston 19 neighborhood. Person of interest held in murder of Tubby Diamond. A person of interest has been taken into custody in relation to the killing of reggae legend Donald Tubby Diamond Shaw. This was disclosed by Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey at a police press conference this afternoon. Bailey declined to share more details on the case. Shaw was among two people shot dead on McKinley Crescent in St. Andrew South Police Division last week Wednesday. 3 other people were shot in the drive-by attack. The musician, 67, who was of the legendary trio Mighty Diamonds, was among a group seated on the roadway when they came under attack about 9:45 p.m. They were rushed to hospital by residents, where Shaw and another man were pronounced dead, and 3 other people admitted with gunshot injuries. Jamaica's music industry has been left heartbroken and angered by Shaw's killing. Protests in Portmore over police shooting of taxi operator. Taxi operators are now protesting in the vicinity of the Portmore Mall in St. Catherine over the police shooting of one of their colleagues. The details of the incident were not immediately available. The shooting reportedly occurred about 10:20 a.m. The injured taximan remains in hospital. According to eyewitnesses, he was shot by a cop after allegedly committing a traffic violation. In the meantime, the police are advising motorists to use the Port Henderson Road or other alternative routes. The demonstration has resulted in traffic delays. Efforts are being made to clear the road. There is heavy police presence. Dutch prosecutors appeal Jacquard's acquittal on attempted murder charge. Dutch prosecutors had filed an appeal against the acquittal of Jamaican reggae singer Jacquard on the charge of attempted murder. Jacquard was on March 22nd convicted of the lesser offense of attempted manslaughter in relation to the stabbing of a promoter over unpaid money. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison in the Netherlands for attempted manslaughter charge. Jacquard, 43, was charged in October in relation to the stabbing incident. In court, the reggae artist had claimed self-defense, but the Court of Amsterdam rejected his claim. According to Frank, press officer for the Netherlands Public Prosecution Service, although the claim of self-defense was rejected, the court found Jacquard not guilty of attempted murder. Last October, Jacquard stabbed promoter Ricardo Papa Blake in Dam Square in the Netherlands. During a public hearing on March 8, the prosecution said Jacquard's action was premeditated and that he intended to cause wounding and harm to Blake. The stabbing followed an argument over money tallying €5,000 owed to the artist by the promoter for a concert at which he performed in Meckwig. Both sides were given 2 weeks wherewith which to bring an appeal if either party disagreed with the court's ruling. Following the court's decision, one of the lawyers for the reggae singer told reporters that the legal team would discuss the merit of filing an appeal. Elephant Man freed of immigration charges. Dancehall entertainer Elephant Man, who was accused of lying to immigration authorities, was this morning freed of breaches of the Immigration and Perjury Acts. The artist was accused of lying about an alleged trip to Belgium, which was one of the countries for which Jamaica had imposed a travel ban in 2020 as part of COVID-19 mitigation efforts. It was being alleged that the popular entertainer, who returned to the island from a tour in Europe, failed to properly declare his travel history to immigration personnel. Disc jockey Kevin Shields, who was drawn to charge in the matter, was also freed when both men appeared in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court for the start of their trial. The entertainer, whose given name is O'Neill Bryan, and Shields were charged with making a false declaration and false volunteer declaration. The trial, which was set to begin this morning before Parish Judge Layton Morris, was aborted after the prosecution offered no evidence in the matter. The prosecution had alleged that on March 20, 2022, Bryan arrived at the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay, St. James, and failed to declare on Immigration and Customs form that he had visited Belgium. As a result, on March 23rd, summons were prepared for breaches of the immigration restriction of Commonwealth citizens and perjury acts and served on Brian. Similar summons were prepared and served on Shields, who had been traveling with Brian. However, attorney at law Russell Stewart, who represented Shields, told reporters that the prosecution had nothing to prove that his client or Brian had visited Belgium except they say so of an unknown passenger. Casey and Kennedy appeared for Brian. Double murder in Parklane. 2 men were shot and killed in Parklane, St. Andrew. The deceased have been identified as 40-year-old Patrick Thompson and Ewan Green, who both lived in the community. The police report that a team was on patrol in the area when explosions were heard. A search was conducted and the men were discovered suffering from gunshot wounds. They were taken to hospital where they were pronounced dead. Investigations are ongoing. Manchester man killed after sharing Sunday dinner with his cousins. A Manchester family has been plunged into grief following Sunday's murder of 28-year-old Kimberly Bryan at Beverly District in the parish. Bryan had just shared his Sunday dinner with 2 of his relatives when a gunman shot him in the face. A report from the Police Constabulary Communications Unit said that about 7:25 p.m., Bryan was at his sister's shop when a gunman entered, ordered an item, and exited. The police said shortly after, explosions were heard and Bryan was seen suffering from a gunshot wound. He was rushed to hospital where he was pronounced dead. A relative who asked not to be named felt strongly that Bryan's killing was in relation to an argument at a party in the neighboring community of Evergreen. He did have an argument with a guy in Evergreen on Saturday night at a dance, the relative said. Bryan was reportedly performing stunt with his car when the man is said to have had threatened to kill him. Bryan always a bust him look a freestyle pon the car, and while he was doing that, the people them there like it, so them a boost him and I say it too short, so him do more, the relative said. The following day, Bryan was enjoying his Sunday evening with his relatives when his killer posed as a customer and ordered a cigarette in the bar. Him dey hear a DJ and a go on with him look a unique style. Him go St. Elizabeth and come back. Him ask for him dinner and sit down across the road pan a wall and I talk to him cousins, the relative said. Everybody they cross the road when this man pass and go in at the bar. Him order a cigarette, added the relative. The gunman reportedly asked Bryan and his relatives where a party was being held. The relative said just as everyone answered the gunman question to say they were not aware of an event in the area, Bryan was shot. Me when him collapse on him face, me run out there and grab him up and turn him over and a beer blood me see a come out of him mouth and him nose, the relative said. Counsel for the Magoli Division, Ron Kennedy, condemned the murder saying nowhere in Jamaica is safe anymore. Magoli is a quiet area. What is happening now is not unique here. It is a national thing, he said. I don't think anywhere in Jamaica now we can say it is safe from criminal activities. It is a national cry, and we need a unified approach to solve this crime problem because it really is getting out of control, he added. He mentioned statements made by 2 former ministers of national security in describing the country's crime situation. One minister did say divine intervention, one did say obia, but me think it's going to take a lot more of that plus more, stated Kennedy. Cops tackle truck stealing ring in St. Anne, Trelawney. The police in Trelawney and St. Anne are grappling with a truck stealing ring in the 2 neighboring parishes since the start of the year. The robbers' modus operandi is to pose as customers and charter haulage contractors operating small trucks to deliver construction material purchased at hardware stores, the police say. The haulage contractors are then told to deliver the material at pre-arranged locations where 2 or 3 armed men are lying in wait and who then steal the vehicles. About 2 p.m. on Thursday, March 17, a 61-year-old Trelawney man was held up and robbed of his Isuzu truck and other items by men in a section of the parish. Police report that the driver was hired by a man to deliver 1 yard of stone and 30 building blocks purchased at a popular hardware in Falmouth. After collecting the building material, he was accompanied by the man who had ordered the goods to a district outside the town center. Upon arrival at the location, the truck driver was pounced upon by 2 armed thugs. The driver was subsequently robbed of $10,000 in cash and his cellular phone, valued at $20,000. The man who had chartered the truck then reported they drove away the vehicle while his two accomplices held the truck driver at gunpoint for 2 hours before releasing him. All three hoodlums reportedly wore black disposable masks covering their faces. The previous Thursday, a small truck operator who was hired to transport 30 building blocks in the parish was held up and robbed of his vehicle. Commander of the St. Anne Police Division Senior Superintendent HSP Dwight Powell told reporters that since the start of the year, the police have recorded 5 similar cases in the Garden Parish. Powell, who said that the cops are closing in on the operators of the truck stealing ring, also theorized that they are the same individuals operating across the 2 bordering parishes. We are following some strong leads, and in a small while, we will be able to crack it. We have not recovered any of the trucks as yet. We have the same issue, and I believe it might be the same people, he stated. 7-year wait for justice. The Nora Thomas son, a policeman, was shot dead in what law enforcers said at the time was a robbery at a bar in the western seacoast town of Hopewell, Hanover, on April 4, 2015, the circumstances of which she and others had staunchly disputed. And even the evidence that has come out of that now 7 years ordeal has raised questions about what investigators had claimed initially. But the reality is that Thomas, a veteran educator and guidance counselor at Hopewell High School, has been without a son she trusted, believed in, and raised by his honesty for 7 years. Kmart Beckford, who at the time of his death was assigned to Betheltown Police Station in Westmoreland, was reportedly killed by a bullet fired from the gun of another member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Inspector Wayne Jacobs, who had told the Inspectorate of the Constabulary and the Independent Commission of Investigations Indicom in separate statements that he had been a patron in the bar which he said Beckford had tried to rob, that Jacobs said resulted in him shooting Beckford. At the time, Beckford, who lived in Springfield, St. Elizabeth, was staying with his mother in Lucy. The bartender who said to be injured by a bullet during the shooting. It later emerged that there were gaps in the statements submitted by eyewitnesses and the on-site investigations that followed. While the Inspectorate of the Constabulary remained mum on the investigations week after, an Indicom official contacted by reporters revealed that there had been discrepancies in the reports that were received up to that point, saying at the time of the investigation was at a very delicate stage and some things do not seem right. Indicom later stated that there was no evidence to recommend that criminal charges should be filed against Inspector Jacobs, who, according to unconfirmed report reaching reporters, has since retired from the constabulary. Indicom had also recommended, though, that the matter be referred to the coroner's court to determine whether or not an inquest could be necessary. This was 2016. Now Thomas is hoping that the court, which meets in session at Hanover Parish Court in Lucy on the anniversary of her son's death, will at least pave the way for her son's name to be cleared. My son did not do what they said he did, and I will continue to fight to clear his name, Thomas said about the matter that was first called up in the coroner's court on November 26, 2021, and was put off for another date. I don't know what it will be like because I have never been in a courthouse apart from the last time November, and I have said to myself, God, why did they have to set it for that day, the anniversary of the date he died? Do I have to go there and listen again to the torture that they put my son through and torture me in the process? But I don't know what God has in store. Even without a lawyer to watch the proceedings on her and her family's behalf, Thompson is prepared to go the full journey in her quest to prove that her son was innocent. Her last retained counsel, she said, has not been responding to her after several calls made to his office, and she does not feel obliged to call him again. There is also another side to the story that the grieving mother, who now cares for her deceased son's child, wants to highlight as part of the equation. At the time of Kmar's death, the police had released a photograph of another constabulary named Kmar Beckford, who was a member of the Trelawney Division. One media organization even carried the photograph, but later apologized for doing that. When he died, the picture that was posted was that of a young man who had the same name from the Trelawney Division. The only difference with his name and my son's is that my son has an apostrophe, Thomas said. I believe that it was a case of mistaken identity. Why did they kill my son? And then the police presented the picture to the media of another policeman. Could it have meant that the other policeman was the intended target? They had his picture ready to present. The picture was carried on TVG. The station later called me to apologize, the mother added. Beckford was buried on May 2, 2015 in the Springfield, Northwest St. Elizabeth. He was not a road cop. I am prepared to fight to the end to prove that he wasn't, Thomas insisted, of her firstborn of 3 when reporters spoke with her on Friday. She said that on the night of the incident, her son had been called to the bar by someone she did not know, and he entered the premises with 2 firearms, one issued by the Jamaica Constabulary and the other owned by him. A police source had confirmed to reporters that no shot was fired from either of Beckford's gun. The initial report of him entering the bar with a mask too was in dispute, as photographs from the crime scene after it was sealed off showed him with a mask placed on his face turned upside down. Beckford's mother said that the 25-year-old was aspiring to become a psychologist and was close to doing 2 more subjects in 2015 to prepare him for the entry into college. Late in April 2015, Thomas told reporters that she was not seeking revenge. Neither am I seeking for anyone's head. The police commissioner need to act. When my son graduated from the police training school at age 19, he said something to me that I will always remember. He told me, a policeman can be your good friend, but he can also be your worst enemy. How profound is that statement? Thomas asked. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.